I've been a fan of Afrikaners for a really long time because I grew up in Newcastle in KZN, which is not an Afrikaans town, but it's got a lot of Afrikaners there.
It is, yeah.
You know, I went to a school with a lot of Afrikaans kids. I played rugby. I sang in the choirs. I got fully entrenched in Afrikaner culture, even though I experienced a lot of racism from them. When you study our history and when you study what happened pre-apartheid, during apartheid, and after, I just found myself admiring their ability to move and shift and adapt and fight for their people, who are a mixed breed of people as well. I think they probably are the original colours, if we were to...
True,
yeah, the original colours, Afrikaners. So AfriForum comes about. It's not a political party, but it's an NPO that's saying we're not happy. We want to fight for our people, and we want to do whatever it takes to make sure that our people are protected. And in doing that, they fundraise 100 Rand, 150 Rand a month, and they get to a point of 350,000 members, which is insane for any organization in this country.
Contributing, yeah.
But specifically a minority group like them. I think there's 2.5 million Afrikaners, and this includes children in the country. And with that money, they've managed to build their own private security. They do basic service delivery. They fight for Afrikaner causes. I think when they built Soltech with solidarity, I was like, okay, these guys are rebuilding the way they were building during apartheid. And I think now they're building their own schools. I think it's called Academia.
Academia, yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to join a black group that is progressive and that is building things outside of politics. And at that time, I was like, let me jump on a moving ship. Later on, if many of us black people join AfriForum, there'll eventually be a breakaway or a division in there that focuses maybe on black issues. If enough of us, AfriForum, if enough of us put in money and are visible and are helping, I'm hoping that they won't be hostile to help some of us, Soweto, Mamelodi, to say, okay, we'll also have AfriForum private security there. We'll also have cutting grass and sorting out things, and maybe we can have a school there. But as part of a division of AfriForum, this is going to be a Zulu school or Setswana school, etc. And you guys, because you fund it, will assist as AfriForum because you're under our umbrella. And I thought I'd be part of that. They'd been fighting for Senzo Meyiwa in a way that I think Irvin Khoza, the ANC and others had not. The Meyiwa family reached out to them. And there's someone also recently who asked the AfriForum to help.
But what is the motive of their causes? Because mostly are directed towards black people. I've never seen AfriForum fighting anybody else outside. They're only targeting black people.
There's a lady whose brother was shot and murdered, and she also, black lady, black brother, also approached AfriForum for assistance. They've assisted certain tribal groups, black, to be recognized. A lot of it is probably PR. Yeah. They don't really have to do it. It's okay. But I thought that was progressive and that was fine. I understood they were conservative. Probably most of their members are racist. I was aware of that. And I'd visit their head offices. I'd sit with some of the leaders. Aaron's Roots, who's left now to create Pioneer or Pioneer, I'm not sure what it's called. I sat with Aaron's van Sail, who's a spokesperson, young guy. I was like, no, man, let's see how we can use this vehicle for change. But their politics just became so loud. And I hate their politics because it's rooted in lies. The farm murders, of which, look, speaking out for your people being killed, even if it's 5 people, is noble. Everyone should take that example. If people are being killed in the taxi industry, if women are being killed, get to the streets, let it be known, go to the UN and be like, they're killing us. Yeah, but there's only 20 of you. It doesn't matter. One of us being killed, Israeli, Jew, Muslim, is unacceptable, and we're speaking. Uguti, you're not speaking for your people who are nothing to do with us. But it was rooted in lies because they overhyped farm murder numbers, which were inaccurate. And then this was way before, but by the time Trump comes and solidarity and the white genocide rumors by then I was like, no, man. And you try to engage them. because I invited Aaron van Zyl here. I spoke to him about why I left AfriForum.
Yeah.
He tried to dispel the myth that they've never mentioned white genocide and that it's been tagged onto them, but they've never said it. But
So what do they refer to as when they say farm murderers? They don't say black farm murderers who are laborers.
no, of course. And they say farm
say
murders.
white farm murderers.
I have to say this. Aaron's Roots and Aaron's van Zyl are incredibly intelligent. So they are those people that are, I didn't say anything. And you're like, yeah, by not denying or by not
Plausible
clarifying,
deniability,
you become complicit. So I couldn't be attached to that. It had nothing to do with black people attacking me online and calling me names. That I didn't mind because I knew it was coming. And I was hoping to shed light on the programs AfriForum has so that other black people could join or they could be inspired to build. Because if the Basotho people built something like AfriForum, I would have also joined. Even though I'm not a Sotho guy, to be like, no, man, this is progressive. I like it. If the Sothos then start saying Zulus are stupid and they dumb, I'd be like, no, man, let's just focus on Sotho issues. But now you guys are lying and you're saying Amazulu are murdering Sothos en masse and we're going to parliament to say Zulus must be destroyed because you're like, no, man, that politics is annoying. So I live for that reason.
But I think AfriForum has done itself disjustice.
Yes.
One, it based itself on the basis of race politics, which we've already...
Never.
Look, being Afrikaner is a race identity.
It's not.
All right. We can argue that.
No
right?
problem.
They then come back and say, our interest is to fight for the preservation of their culture and
100%.
identity, which if you do that in South Africa, you're called tribalistic. For instance, I come from a Tabra background, from a Pedi background, and the minute we start talking about being the Pedi people, we're called tribalistic, we're called, people who don't want to move out of the cultural, enclaves, and we want to preserve ourselves within a tribalistic idea. Whereas in South Africa, as you know, we've got the Xhosas, we've got the Zulus, we've got the Sothos, which are broken up into the South Sothos and the North Sothos. The Pedis in majority are the North Sothos, and then the South Sothos are the Botswana as well as the Basotho from Lesotho. So within that environment, South Africa is broken up within this racial identity, which has not helped us to unify.
Yes.
The most good example, by the way, which was actually brilliant, and why I actually follow some of the ideology around the Zulu nation. They did very well. The Zulus were not a homogeneous Zulu people.
Correct.
They actually took an amalgamation of various tribes which had no identities, whether it was the Klubis, whether it was the Ndebeles, whether it was the Tswanas, whether it was the Pedis, and they all put them under one umbrella and said, we're going to create this nation called the Zulu nation, under the identity of what? Zulu means what? Heavenly.
Yes.
People of the heavenly nature or culture. And they did create an incredible brand. I mean, what Shaka did within the 10 years spread of bringing in these little tribes, bringing in this mega, sort of a bastion of power, which fought the British and won against the British. Because the only territory that was liberated during the British, colonial, conquest was KwaZulu-Natal, and we still have it today. Then came in the Transvaal area, which was the Pedis and the North Sothos, which were not as yet conquered, which was us. We were the last tribe, by the way, which never got taken down, and we were still standing. The last fight which they brought onto my village, Nchabeleng, was actually brought by the British. They had about 40,000 mercenaries which were sent down to Limpopo, Sekhukhune, Nchabeleng region where the full war against Sekhukhune was fought. 40,000 mercenaries, and out of that they managed to encircle and literally for months burn everything to the ground. That whole scorched earth policy started there. They burned everything to the ground and circled Sekhukhune to a point where the whole tribe had nothing else but to surrender and say, listen, we cannot fight any further because everything has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Then they captured him and then brought him to Pretoria, what they call Kgosi Mampuru prison is where actually they kept him. And then based on that, after that, there was a negotiated release based on, some agreements that he will retain the smaller portion of Transvaal, which was the Sekhukhune portion and the Limpopo. And then the rest of the land, which stretched up to almost Lesotho, which comes to the Vaal River border, and the Limpopo border, which used to be the Pedi territory. So when they talk about land in South Africa, people don't want to go into the real tribal as well as hereditary context of it. Our wealth was stolen on those bases. We're not fighting for a small little portion of land, which is based in, for instance, Kokune and, Beggars Fort and that small little area. We're fighting for something bigger. Land that stretched from Limpopo River to the boundaries of the Lesotho Highlands Mountain, which is the Vaal River, mouth. That is where we are actually defining our territory, and then it spreads across towards Mpumalanga, and then it spreads across towards Lesotho, Botswana side of it. So when you talk about these things, for me, it's very emotive because look at what the Zulus were able to achieve.
Do you think they did well?
The Zulus did well.
That's colonialism of sorts.
Yeah, it was a colonial machinery, but
Okay.
in a sense of the identity, in the sense of the unity, in the sense of the regiments they created.
But it was forced.
Yeah, it had to be because they had an enemy at the door.
And now they're all forced to be Zulu.
Yeah, they have to be Zulus. I mean, why must you change identity?
So you admire that?
Coca-Cola doesn't say, look, let's spread ourselves since we are now this big dominant brand and become what, Pepsi.
You admire that?
It's brilliant.
Oh, so you don't believe in
Unity is-
diversity in what?
No, diversity
Rainbow.
exists. You and I are black people.
Sure.
We are diverse in everything. We think different. We speak different. You follow, for instance, AfriForum. I don't support AfriForum.
I don't.
So the diversity is our ideologies, our expressions, how we live, how we exist, how we express ourselves politically. Some people will say politically, I don't believe in this and I follow that. So that's where the diversity should exist. But at an identity level, national identity, we have to be very clear and careful. What the Zulus have done is unprecedented. And they still preserve it, even in the most little things. I mean, they are Swenko culture. It's a bit crazy in a way, but it's amazing that they could take something that was used as an instrument of the oppression, coming out of the mines where they were almost looked down upon. They were laborers. They had no expression of any sort. And they could create something for themselves on weekends where they would have a cultural weekend where they would dress up, buy expensive clothes, nice clothes, your brand hoods and your floshams, the nice things. And then they'll have a little bit of an expression for themselves over a weekend because they were far away from their families, the villages, etc. And then they'll have this cultural expression of umswenko, looking good over the weekend and then, doing their dope shaela thing and all of that. So it's something, it kept them together. But at the same time, the agenda for me was incomplete. Because you cannot have an empire without the identity of what really builds an empire. It ended at the battalion level, it ended at the warrior level, but it never built what we needed to see as an outcome. You go to Europe, you know the British because you can see their imperial power. You go to Asia, China, for instance. You go to Japanese, Koreans, Chinese. You go to Malaysians. You go to Asians. You would see their imperial power. They've built monuments. They've built towns. They've built cities. They've built even villages. They've built shrines. They've got an incredible economy and ecosystem that made them a people that coexisted. You come to Africa, most of our imperial power and structures, whether it's the Xhosas, the Zulus, the Pedis, whether it's to do with the Shanganis, all of it is gone. There's no relic of anything we could really look back to. So I yearn for the days where we could have that imperial structure, the power. We could show that we are a people who exist independently, that we don't have for now.
Yeah.
And the politics have disappointed us because politics should have been able to restore back all that cultural heritage, the lost legacy, the lost history, the lost culture, and the lost way of life. Black people are not people, if you look at our expression, we're very, not proud people, but we're very dignified humans. How do you earn dignity if you don't have anything to express it?
No, of course.
You can't be dignified in poverty. And this is the situation we're caught up in. We're most poor people.
Yeah,
it's
the stereotype of being a black person.
Yeah.
Poverty is one of the labels.
Why should we accept that? And that's why we have to fight to get out of the poverty streams. And we're saying clearly that for us, having achieved this little level of 30 years of reprieve in terms of apartheid oppression is not enough. We need more. We need
more
empire.
time.
We don't need more time.
Oh.
We need an empire structure. We need to build new identity as black people in our own culture, in our own way, in our own expression. So what the Chinese and the Japanese, I'm giving you this good example.
Yeah.
You can go to Saudi Arabia. Go to the Middle East, what they have done for themselves. Go to Brazil, the South Americans, what they've done for themselves in terms of building their own identity. Every revolution, if it did not build you an outcome of an empire that defined yourselves pre and post your system of colonialism or conquer, doesn't mean anything. Right now, what do we have? A lot of people who are well-to-do, who have made money without having built anything.
That's
a
correct.
lot of people who have, they have good jobs in a very limited way. Minority of our people, 1 million or 2 people have good jobs. And then the rest of it is your population is poor. 80% of black people are poor in South Africa. And that's what we want to change. And some of us, we were born with this thing probably, whereby we were not satisfied with the mundane. I have a career, I have an achievement, I've done this and I've done that. It's a bigger calling. And that's what delivers us to this. And that's what made me go into the civil society world. I come from a very diverse, social entrepreneurship environment. I started off in business as an investment banker. And I understood where we were robbed, where the money runs, the real money of the society, the real money in the economy. And based on that, when I went into social entrepreneurship, I wanted to make something different. And when I got in there, we created great businesses and we were crushed by the system. When the system comes hard on you, they unleash money, they unleash lawyers, they unleash corporates to go after you, to destroy your ideas and your business, enterprises. But they do it in such a way that you are the only black person that will still stand standing after they finish you. But what they didn't realize is they gave us an exit into another avenue because we were not building businesses just to be filthy rich and then live a luxury, opulent life.
Sure.
We were hustling to be free out of this whole thing because I grew up out of a township. Out of a village. In this township, all I could see was people who were caught up in a cycle. Typical labor home environment where everybody else wanted to work for the government, and then if you had a government job, you were set for life. And I didn't find it exciting for me. I thought to myself, look, why must I live my whole life hustling to be a government employee? And then after being a government employee, I get given a house in a room in a house of 3 other men sharing a 3-bedroom house. And the best I could have was they would have this 3-piece suite bedrooms with a music system and then a television. And that was it. That was the aspiration for most people.
Wasn't
with
good
a
enough for
government
you.
car. I thought, no, man, this is not going to work for me. I needed something more. And that's why I had to come to Johannesburg at the time. And we said, look, we're setting our eyes on this thing. I came here. I got enrolled in the schools here. And then I finished my education here. And then I realized that what we are pursuing is not enough. We need to build something to restore back our dignity as African people. We lost a lot. And most of it because we don't have that historical and cultural link to it. We don't know what is really happening. In the world, there's over 12 to 14 trillion to 16 trillion moving in South African economy daily.
That's rent.
Yes. The stock market alone holds a minimum of about 14 trillion in assets.
Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
And they're trading it daily. Almost 80 billion is traded on a daily basis, which means companies are getting capital flotation on a daily basis. Naspers alone was sitting at some point with about 2 trillion in capital, in assets.
Before they left.
So what does that say? What does that say to you as a black person? We can't pierce 2 trillion together as Africans because we are too diverse, we are too fighting each other, we don't understand what's happening in the markets, we don't understand the sectors, we haven't built anything, like as you say in your aspiration when you said you wanted to see what AfriForum has achieved.
Yes.
Theirs was just a little loop into understanding how they could change the system. But the successes of organizations like AfriForum is because they had huge funders and benefactors. It was not the minority contribution as well as monthly, contribution given by individuals.
You believe they're lying about that?
No. They've got a lot of money. I've got contacts to the likes of Professor Herman Gilomir. I met him several years ago, who wrote a book, The Afrikaner. And we spoke in length, and we actually did quite a lot of work where we were just discussing what made the Afrikaners. A lot of it is a lie.
A lot of it is a lie.
It's a lie. Most money that actually builds the Afrikaner identity is coming from foundations like, for instance, the Rupert Foundation has given quite a lot of money in billions.
You're speaking apartheid now, not AfriForum.
No, the current AfriForum.
Okay.
And some of them, Solidarity and all of this Afrikaans legacy organizations.
You're saying they got funding from the Rupert Foundation and others?
The Afrikaans identity.
Sure.
Yeah, they get money as an identity. So foundations are created to almost propagate and promote the Afrikaner way of life.
It's a beautiful thing.
Benefactors of it would be Solidarity, for instance, AfriForum, and other organizations that are pushing the Afrikaans identity.
Yes.
That's why you have even on television, you have a CakeNet channel where it caters for all the Afrikaans requirements, lifestyle and businesses, as well as the community preservation of the language and everything.
FACA is another big institution in the Afrikaner that preserves culture, their music, their arts, their literature, etc.
AfGri and all of them, the cooperatives that they've created. So they've done quite good for themselves as a identity, as a tribal or cultural identity from an Afrikaans point of view.
Sure.
But it doesn't help us. I'm not Afrikaans. What does it do for me as a black person?
It's not meant to do anything for you.
So what I want to know is, what do we do as black people? They are doing their own war of trying to find their own self-preservation and identity. It's a dying breed. I mean,
what's a dying breed?
The Afrikaners. Very soon, in the next 100 years, you will find very little Afrikaners. They are declining in numbers on an annual basis, just like the amount of white people in the world are declining. And those numbers soon will be completely identity-less.
You believe that?
It will go.
You don't think it's propaganda?
No, it's not.
I think it's propaganda.
No, think about it. 1.5 billion people are Chinese.
Okay.
1.5 billion people are Indian
okay.
in the world, right? We've got about 8.4 billion people. The rest of them is 1 billion are African.
Black,
right?
Okay.
In the continent. Then you've got the Asian, Hispanics, you've got the others who are part of the brown nation.
Okay.
So when you
this is outside of China and India.
All of it, outside China and India. So if you start looking at the population of white race in the world, you'll see it's a minority already. It does not dominate as a majority. The white people in the world are a minority.
Let me look it up while we're here. I remember once debating this thing and the numbers didn't make sense.
Over a period of time, the genetical makeup of the white dominant race will start declining and almost collapse. Because over 100 period years, the white people will not be able to have more children like the African, as well as the Asians have done so.
So on Google here, it says there's approximately 1.2 to 1.5 billion white people or people of European descent.
So
that's comparable to China and comparable to India.
Yeah, but in 8 billion?
Sorry?
We've got 1 billion in Africa alone.
Which is less than white people.
Yeah, in Africa alone.
I know, but I'm just saying globally. I think we're looking globally.
Correct, yeah.
There are more white people globally than black people.
Are the ones that are now leading the world in terms of population. It's not white.
No, that's okay. They're not the number one.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
domination.
I don't see them as dwindling. I see their numbers
the numbers
as even more than
crashing.
Black.
Check the numbers. Just check birth rates in terms of the fall of the what you call a white nation.
Which is why I'm asking you, don't you think it's propaganda? Because I'm looking at these numbers and the numbers you're giving me. We've got 1.5 billion white people. We've got 1 billion black people.
Yeah.
We've got 1.5 billion people in China alone.
China and then
1.5 billion in India alone.
Correct.
So
it's almost 5 billion.
White people might not be having
brown,
children
right?
at the same level. But in terms of numbers currently, it doesn't look like it's panic.
No,
they're not sitting at like 200 million.
No, they are panicking. They are going to go down in years, and the less and more economically advanced they become, the less children they have. That's one of the things in terms of
that happens to everyone, right?
Yeah. I mean, Africa hasn't yet reached there.
It's because we're poor that we're still breeding.
No, it's not. Breeding is not poverty based.
No,
the Chinese are not poor, but they're still breeding. All right, they even had to curb the amount of people they had.
They were curbing during poverty. Now that they're well off,
no, the
they're
Chinese
not having
already
kids.
They had already a huge amount of people before the explosion of economy.
That's what I'm saying. It was during poverty that they were exploding. Yeah. Once they started developing, along with the laws,
they kept it. Yeah.
When you look at black people now that we live with, the more they move up in social status and income, the fewer children they have.
Yeah.
So I'm saying in Africa, it's a poverty thing. Once Africa...
So you're saying children in Africa are created because people have nothing else to do.
I think so.
Okay.
You disagree?
Look, I wouldn't disagree because again, leisure is one of those things.
India as well. I think the reason my Indians breed is also because of poverty. And I think the richer the Indians, the fewer children they have.
Well, I wouldn't say that for African people because I would be in trouble. Or people cannot be regarded as having children because, I have lots of children as a man. I mean,
sure.
And that doesn't make me somebody who just breathes for leisure.
But when you look at your peers who are living well off, suburbia, do they have lots of children?
They do, most African men.
Interesting. Okay, I see different.
You and I, we have the same thing. And most men in the room.
That's why I get attacked because I'm seen as an anomaly.
How so? For having more children?
Yes.
What is wrong with having more children?
For me, nothing.
I love children.
But for affluent people, they're like, but private school fees are expensive. How do you afford these children? So they normally end up with 1 or 2.
Oh, because of affordability. And because they're stuck with what? A situation where mostly are married to one woman, right? And there's a limit to what happens. So that's what it comes down to. So if people could think outside that box,
yes,
kids are not an anomaly in a society. We see it as a blessing.
They're not supposed to be.
Yeah, we see it as a blessing. As a 100%. Muslim man, I see children as a blessing.
You're a Muslim
my
man?
progeny is only going to be preserved if I'm a good man as a Muslim.
You're a Muslim man?
Yeah. I can be able to leave this legacy behind me of having created a difference in the world in whatever form and way possible.
Let me interrupt you now. Number one, just to close off, I disagree with you that AfriForum is a racial organization. I agree with you that it is a tribal organization. That's 100% correct. And one of the mistakes...
when did we make Africans a tribe?
No, they made themselves a tribe. They made themselves a tribe. They don't represent all white people.
Oh, right.
They are a subset. Just as Amazulu
African speaking,
don't represent all black people. Yeah, so they see themselves as a tribe. And we're not speaking about how AfriForum and others are tribalistic.
In their attitude.
Orania is a tribalistic town.
Society. Yeah.
So we're like, no, it's not racial. They're preserving their culture. If Zulus were to do the same and said, no, only Zulus allowed here, the IFP is only a Zulu party, someone would say this is tribalism and they'd probably take them to the Constitutional Court. But these guys are not because they take them racially. And then Abu AfriForum are like, no, Tina, we welcome anyone because it's not racial. And that's how they hide. But they are tribal. Yeah. So I agree with that.
And racist.
No, the racist, you and I can say yes. But officially, it doesn't hold up.
Yeah, look, those Afrikaans people are not interested in anything else but Afrikaans people only. Anybody outside that are seen as the other.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
We'll
speak about it. We'll speak about it.
I would like to get into that part.
No problem.
Why would you not?
We'll speak about it. We'll speak about it. Number 3, I wanted to speak about your name, Adil, and I wanted to ask what language and where it comes from. One of my really good friends and close brothers throughout my schooling career was a gentleman by the name of Adil Adam.
Okay.
Young, at the time, Muslim man.
Yeah.
And I would have asked if there's any link with that language and Arabic. Okay. And now that you're saying that you're a Muslim man, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's obvious.
That makes a lot of sense. And I also just wanted to touch on, and you're not the first one, people from Limpopo that have surnames, and then when you ask about their surname, they tell you they come from a village which links to their surname, which I think is a beautiful thing because it speaks to identity.
Yeah, true.
I am Nchabeleng from Nchabeleng, which is where we come from. True. If I said Ngumlotshwa, Ngipuma kwamlotshwa, that would be beautiful. I wanted to say that. And then I wanted to start off this conversation with asking 2 things. 1, why did you sell out? And number 2, why are you here? But we can, if you want to do the Afrikaans thing, we can hit. Otherwise, we can focus on the agenda of the day.
Which part of the sellout? I love that part.
The Afrikaner thing is not important. It's not.
Look, I don't care about Afrikaner people.
But we don't have to discuss it.
No,
we'll
we don't
discuss
have
it
to.
Another time.
We've touched on the Afrikaners.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
You sold out, and why are you here? I've got other questions, but I wanted to start there. You said to do David Nchabeleng on King David Studios. Brilliant interview. And one of the clips that ended up going viral was your breakdown of Eskom, how it works and what the problems are there, etc. At that time, I actually wanted to sit with you because I wanted us to do just an episode on just electricity generation only, and how renewables work, how nuclear works, solar, hydro, coal. I wanted us to do like a masterclass on electricity, which unfortunately we didn't have a chance to do. in there, part of your criticism was around the political systems. And listening to you now, it still sounds like you have an issue with the political system because it doesn't serve the majority of the country. It doesn't serve black people. It doesn't serve the impoverished. We need to think outside the box, as you said. We need alternative systems. But after that interview, you then go and join a political party and then sit in the place that we hate, amongst the people that we hate and we feel are destroying the country, in a space that I feel is distracting from doing real work. Which is selling out.
The parliament.
Yes, honorable member.
Okay, if getting into parliament was a sellout, then we have to redefine the terms of this revolution.
Okay.
All right. I understand that people believe that we have to fight outside of the system, but the system as it is today is set in such a way that if you fight outside it, you're actually inviting yourself unnecessary tension and prison. Because anybody else who defies what the Constitution defines for you as a just society that should be protected according to constitutional preambles, which is people can have the right to demonstrate, they have the right to form political parties, they have the right to free association, they have the right to express their own ideas, they've got the right to belong to any political party, but it's governed within a structure.
Correct.
It says within that right, form political parties, contest for elections. After elections, take your electoral mandate and constituency, go and represent that interest in parliament. So going to parliament was part of the revolutionary trajectory that we
It can't be a revolution.
It is a revolution.
It's within the framework of what exists.
No, in a sense that
be honest.
You said to us,
be honest.
If you saying to us,
be honest.
I'm being honest.
So,
okay,
the ANC and other liberation parties were not operating within the framework of South African law. Yes or no?
ANC
and other liberation parties.
Yeah.
Were not operating within the framework of South African law.
During the apartheid days, right?
Sure. This was a revolution.
Yeah.
When you speak revolution, but it's within the bounds of like a constitution, that is not a revolution.
It is a revolution.
Cannot. By definition.
What would you define it to be then?
No, besides the definition. I'm only saying this, mind you, I've got my own opinions. I'm criticizing Adil based on Adil 3 years ago.
Yeah, good. I agree.
I'm not coming with my own
I
agendas.
fully agree that.
There's an Adil 3 years ago who's looking at you saying, our chief.
Why did I
so
change
you
my
with these
tone?
guys now, when we were meant to be building something? What revolution is this?
What I discovered then, we were always interested in political power. We always knew that the ultimate game is to have political power with regards to majority and take that majority and change the laws and change the conditions which our people are finding themselves in. As I said to you, you cannot do it outside the confines of the law. If today we were to agree that out of this podcast we are going to inspire people to go out in the streets and overthrow the government, we agreed.
Yes.
All right? Say, for instance, right? After that agreement, we make an assumption to say now out of that we will have 2 million people on the streets and we will create an uprising. And out of that uprising, we will inspire the youth and unemployed and the people who are currently in the bureaucratic system to actually overthrow the system.
Yes.
Do you know what will happen to you and I tomorrow in the day?
We'd be arrested.
We'll be arrested.
We'd be terrorists, we'd be traitors,
Because, why? The system is created to confine you within their own means of what they would call a revolutionary means.
I agree.
So we had to adapt.
You don't have to.
If selling out...
But you don't have to. You can be a terrorist. You just chose not to be.
Being a terrorist to who?
To the system.
How?
That is oppressive to the majority of South Africans.
No, that's criminality.
It is criminality.
So why would you choose a route which is not going to give you
Because the current system is oppressive to the... That's the whole point.
We had an option. We could have said, if we disagreed, for instance, with the trajectory that the ANC took at the time, when we said 30 years has collapsed, we haven't seen the fruits of our democracy. The current ANC has gone its own way to almost literally auction the whole country and not ever benefit the majority of black people. We had agreed at that point that, guys, our only route is to collapse the system and either take power by force, or we had an option to go out into exile.
Sure.
Right? To go and wage our struggle, whether it's armed struggle, whether it's political struggle, ideological struggle. We will be outside the confines of the state and we will be persona non grata. The only ultimate route we all agreed to was, guys, the only route we have available now to mobilize for the next coming few years is within the political confines. Okay. Let us prove this so-called non-existent ideology. They made mockery when we said we wanted radical economic transformation. It was not an ANC ideology. It was something that the masses wanted to demand. They said to that, we want to see our lives change radically. We want to see the betterment of our society. We want to have houses. We want to have cars. We want to have jobs. We want to have industries. We want to make sure that our kids are going to the best of schools. We want to make sure that as Grootman, Auti, as Ntwana from Ekasi can go to the best schools from Ekasi. But it couldn't be done because the system we are in only rewards a certain echelon on the top, the 1%. The majority of us are kept at the bottom within poverty and are squashed on a daily basis through the mechanisms used in the state. So we decided by then to say, either we form part of the state machinery and force our way legitimately within the constitution to make change in the system, or we become rogues and we go outside and we organize. The organizing outside was not in any way going to work. So we sold out on that basis, if this is what is called sold out, joining politics and making sure that we can change the shape and the face of the current, useless leaders we have today in society. And we can bring in people of conscience, people of morals, people of ethics, people of principles. Then maybe let's sell out on that basis. Because what we are achieving now is far greater than what we had before.
Do you believe
we didn't have political power. Okay. We didn't have my minority representation in parliament. We didn't have political ideology that was cohesive. You had EFF. You had all these other smaller parties, but they were not cohesive in terms of ideological push to say we are going to bring about this transformation. But when you see what we are doing right now, and I'm not going to talk on behalf of MK.
I was going to ask if you could unpack.
I can give you the MK, platform of to what is MK all about. But I'm not a spokesperson, but I will give you my view from an activist point of view. What inspired people like me to say I will be part of this revolutionary movement for bringing about change, which you call non-revolutionary, but it is revolutionary. It has done something that no other political party could have delivered within a year of its existence, could have delivered within a year of being in political realm, as well as political structures like parliament, political structures like political presence in provinces. And the only party that I have seen, which we've always been yearning for, that could exist without any single white man giving money and saying we are going to do this as a result so that you can then become a legitimate political existence. Nobody.
You're opening a
It was not funded. Even the guy, the Liebenberg, they say funded. Liebenberg didn't.
Are you going to answer this
MK.
question?
I'm telling you these things because I was part of the grounds.
Must I ask you the question?
People. You could ask a question.
Are you sure? Who funds Umkhonto weSizwe?
Umkhonto weSizwe was funded by poor communities.
You sound like AfriForum.
I'm telling you this truth.
But you sound like AfriForum.
I'm coming from the ground where Umkhonto weSizwe was formed in the townships.
So AfriForum, for AfriForum, you don't believe fundraise from 100 Rand a month?
No, they do fundraise. They've got their 350 plus members who are contributing, say, 300 Rand or 500 Rand a month.
100 Rand.
It's perfect.
You believe them?
I believe that. They have
so they've
debit orders on a monthly basis. Yeah, AfriForum. But come back to Umkhonto.
No problem.
Why is it unbelievable that MK could have been created as an organization that was funded by Abu Gogo, Abu Mama, the young guys in townships and in communities, people coming from the suburbs, people who were ordinarily members of political parties, especially majority of them came out of the ANC, who said, look, we will support you. We don't have to be seen in the struggle, but we can give you support and help. Must I
answer honestly? Not diplomatically.
Yeah.
Be honest. We're on a platform, so
I'm honest with you because I walk the ground.
That's fine.
For the first day of the launch until the last day of the vote, we were on the ground monitoring the program and activities. And you will be shocked.
We don't have to be honest.
It was Abu Mama. I'm telling you, Penuel, it was Abu Mama who took out food out of their houses. It was incredible. Who bought T-shirts for themselves. Who were able. There were people who were said that they would give out money. But people on the ground never received any money from majority corporations or white people or anybody. They actually self-organized to create the sense of presence of MK. I saw it live. This is not something what we're making up. But unfortunately, our narrative within the media is so fixated in an example that says black people can never self-organize. This is one of the few in the last 30 years that has been able to come up from nothing and was supported by ordinary people on the ground who gave it the votes, who gave it the majority support, and who didn't even have money to buy T-shirts and nothing. But they organized and hustled and used their little monies. Do you know all of the offices, most of the offices of MK, were based in people's houses?
That's nice.
They were organizing from people's townships, the communities, the villages,
like
the
home cell
houses.
groups.
It was self-start groups. People who said, look, here's a movement, here's a model, we are going to put ourselves under this umbrella, and we are MK people. And they loved the fact that it has to do with Konvo overseas.
Yeah.
One of the inspirational view, which I spoke to President Jacob Zuma for years before, I said, we cannot leave MK as it is and the way they were killing it within the ANC.
It was being destroyed, yeah.
And we needed to do something at a revival level. So MK, in terms of ideological formation, was already there for some time in thinking about the revival of it. I'm selfish about it. Why I'm an MK member? It's a very selfish idea. I missed the opportunity in the 1960s to form part of the MK battalion. I was not born. At the time,
they were a terrorist organization.
They were referred to as a terrorist organization.
They were not operating
outside.
within...
Yeah, they couldn't operate at the time in South Africa. They had cells that operated in South Africa.
Sure.
And one of the cells, by the way, was run by my family, the Nchabeleng detachment in Limpopo, Nchabeleng, where they were training MK people. This is where I come in. And passionately wise, I grew up under this incredible legacy and I wanted to be part of it. I couldn't be part of it because I was not born and I was not around at the time. And when I came into the life of politics, democracy came in, apartheid ended.
Why not join the ANC?
I had the opportunity. I was part of the ANC for all these years.
Sure, but why not carry on with them?
We couldn't do what we wanted because the ANC has two faces. There's the black majority on the ground. Then there is the white minority controllers of the ANC who give the ANC the policies, who give the ANC the posture it must assume at the global level, at the government level. Then there is the aspiring people, me and you, who love the legacy of the liberation and the struggle, who supports it out of our heart. And that's where the difference is. But the controllers of the ANC have nothing to do with the people on the ground. Because if we were true about it, if ANC was a true liberation movement, the masses by now should have been uplifted out of poverty. We should not be having the 60% of unemployment among the youth. We should not be having a situation where we are driving in Johannesburg, every 100 meters is a pothole. We should not be having a situation where the factories are being shut down and the only thing we're seeing is warehouses coming up.
Malls
and centers, which are mostly for the affluent rich, not for the poor. We should have been seeing a society whereby through the aspirations of that political ideology, we would be building back the fiber of life, giving back our people dignity, making sure that we make prices affordable. From bread, basic things that needs affordability. We didn't see it. So people can say now we sold out and we went into politics. We had to go into politics. It was a really high time.
It was the best option for you.
Yeah, and we're growing older. What am I going to tell my children that I did in my life? Sat there and waited for the ANC to collapse completely after Ramaphosa had finished everything and his cabal of Abu, Fikile Mbalola and a few of them, Paul Mashatile. They have done nothing. They are not going to do anything to change our people's lives, and we're not going to wait for them to change. We are coming in now to say, guys, we're demanding this change. We're not negotiating anymore, and we want it to happen because this is the mandate our people have given us. When we walked the ground as ordinary people, when we were mobilizing for the formation of the MK among communities, the most important thing that we saw was the glaring face of our people's poverty. And they said our only hope is in MK to take us out of this poverty and restore our lives. So when you do that, there's no way you cannot be touched, Penuel. You've been through this experience where I've been through it. Their passion was the only last man for them. And people don't understand this. The only last man for them who gave them the glimmer of hope, who broke out of the system was Nchabeleng. It was a few months after he came out of prison that he realized that the system is cruel. The system has no heart of us as Abantu. It only cares about its own survival, which is the preservation of the wealth of the rich and the minority white monopoly capital that is enjoying everything, and its lackeys. Black people who surround it, who supports it, and who are always preserving the existence of the system that we call this beautiful South Africa. The rest of us are struggling. We make means on a month-to-month basis. We have to see to it that our bills are catered for. We have no system that even gives us support to build a house, support to make sure that you can have a decent education for your children. The public school system is breaking down. So when you go into those communities and you see that poverty, when you come out, you can't be the same. You can't be an ANC, maybe elite, and say, no, the people are crazy, they want too much. They want too much because they deserve it. The vote they give you is to say, go demand for us a better life. And that's what we are coming here to demand. We're not going to make any compromises about it. Unfortunately, we could have taken it the other route of becoming a revolutionary movement, and most of us going outside and saying we're going to organize ourselves as individuals and try and fight the regime currently under the democratic dispensation. It would have been futile.
If you don't mind, sorry. I'd like you to answer why you're here today, because I've got questions on MK, and if the reason you're here today has got nothing to do with MK, then I'll park my questions.
No, I'm particularly not here for MK.
Okay, so
Yeah.
can I throw my
You
questions
can ask
away?
questions about MK here and there, but not for MK's sake.
You're not here for MK.
No. I'm here to talk about South Africa. My passion is South Africa.
Okay.
MK is a project I'm working with.
Okay, let me ask one or two questions about MK, then hopefully you can unpack your vision. I'm a huge fan of ex-President Jacob Zuma. Just like AfriForum, I get attacked online a lot for how I feel about him as a man. He sat at ANC senior leadership level for decades. Not 1 or 2 terms, for decades. He's been part of and he's been a beneficiary of the same white elites that you're speaking about, who assisted with BEE policy and the transition and giving people shares and tenders and the like. And I'd like to think, when you read the book, The ANC Billionaires by Peter Tutoy, he speaks about Jürgen Kogel, of which Zuma became one of the beneficiaries, along with Thabo Mbeki. He used to house them. They speak about how the Tambo family managed to get a house in Sandhurst, how Nelson Mandela got a house in Houghton overnight, how people just became rich. His may not be as direct. We're not aware that there's a Ngamalala Holdings company in Bryanston, which has shares in all these white companies so that he can be a buffer between the poor and the minority rich. But he was part of a system that was benefiting. And I'd like to think his associates, in many ways, people he's worked with, people that sit as a part of Umkhonto weSizwe, in various ways, whether it is getting jobs, being CEOs, being chair people, being beneficiaries of tenders from SOEs or others, were benefiting because of his proximity at that level. And it becomes convenient. As someone that loves him very much, it becomes convenient for him to, not voluntarily, be almost kicked out of the ANC, to a point where he even said he's never leaving the ANC. The same ANC now, Umkhonto weSizwe calls names. And then he sets up Umkhonto weSizwe, and many people follow him. And when they speak about poverty on the ground and expectations, and they speak as if these are new things, and they're not. These are things that have been called for since Freedom Charter days, which was also written by white people, Jewish people. The EFF of Julius Malema gets kicked out of the ANC, Zuma, saying we will kill for Zuma at a time when they're speaking for nationalization. The people need dignity, the people need the land, the people need the economy, so that they're not struggling. But they get kicked out. They set up the EFF, they call him Ubaba Tutuzane, and years later, Ubaba Tutuzane gets kicked out. Now he's forming Umkhonto weSizwe with people that have been in the ANC for decades, coming to tell the rest of South Africans that, look at what the ANC has done. It's like, but it was you.
At the time.
It was you guys. You can't act like it was someone else. And you're telling us you are the only vehicle. The only vehicle is led by Zuma, who's been ANC leader for decades under the same rot. And we must believe that. Maybe for some people, sure. But for people like myself, it just sounds like the same old politics. It sounds like a new pacification tool. Umalema managed to absorb some angry blacks where the ANC wasn't anymore. And then there were other angry blacks that were now leaking out. And it's like, say, someone must adopt these angry blacks because now they're going to become a problem. It's like, say, Tumanu Zuma, Zuma becomes the real Tumami, which this guy will sell the hope of RET. We are going to infiltrate government. We will change policy. My question to you, Konvo gets 14% in its first year. You guys call it a miracle. I just call it the Zuma effect.
We won the elections landslide, but we were given
in the country.
In the election results in IEC, they said we got 14 point whatever percent. But
you guys believe you won elections? Over 50%?
Yeah, we won the elections.
No, so over 50%?
We won the elections, all right? The case, when it finalizes, will show you exactly how the elections were won.
Over 50%.
The majority of people in South Africa who voted during the last election gave Konvo an overwhelming support and vote. I can tell you without any flinch. Even the ANC people will tell you that when they were at the polls, they got shocked when they even saw their own comrades and cadres at the day of voting with different T-shirts saying, guys, we are with you, but sorry, today we are voting for MK. So it was an incredible shift, which, according to the system, like I told you, we're living in, was not ready for. So they had to do what? Delay the victory of MK and shift the results of the elections to indicate this gradual incoming process. But MK had won the elections outright. So that one part of it we must be clear about, because from a point of view of people who feel that MK is just like any other political party that came in to force its way. Coming back to the question of Ubaba Zuma, let me explain to you. He had all these years in the ANC. When his turn came to take over power, he demonstrated it. He's the most exemplary president we had in South Africa, who pulled the economy to become a 5-digit economy in terms of a percentage, 5%, 6% economic growth, right? He managed to do infrastructure projects. He created sanitation, water, housing, schools. He brought in infrastructure development. He improved the airports. He improved the infrastructure of South Africa. He created learning opportunities. He created possibilities for black people at his tenure as a president. Remember, when you are in power, we only test you on the mental of what you're doing during your tenure in power. And that is when I think the whole over exaggeration that people didn't do anything gets almost lost as a narrative. Because during his tenure, he was able to do a few things that were great. A lot of other projects were blocked. We can talk about the nuclear project, which if we had done in South Africa, 10,000 megawatts with the Russians, with the expertise, with the ability of the technical knowledge and know-how, South Africa will be sitting in a different trajectory economically, even at the GDP level. We can talk about the attempt to implement radical economic transformation, which was blocked by the markets, and they were very clear about it. They knew there was going to be a shift of capital, there was going to be an introduction of new money and new capital created for black people, and it would have been a competition to the existing oligarchs of South Africa's empire, the ones that are controlling the majority of our spend in the country. So you had to stop a man like that, who was already decisive in his outlook in terms of what should be done in terms of changing power. And how did they stop it? Through an impeachment. They forced an impeachment process to say, if we don't get him out of power, he's going to be more dangerous. So they tried an attempt, and they succeeded with a few people. Paul Mashatile was one of the leaders of the impeachment drive towards removing of Zuma out of power. And a few others in the ANC that led this campaign to make sure that they can push out President Jacob Zuma at the time. So talking about the legacy of Zuma, we cannot even start at this level to even describe it, because people would say, no, he didn't do much at his time. He did a lot, more than any other president. And I even ask people in my time. A few people say, no, you can't even follow him. The man is uneducated and everything. And I come to one question. I said, Penuel, you and I have parents, fathers. My father, your father, combined in their experience and everything they've done in their lives, they wouldn't even reach the level of what Zuma could do with nothing.
That's a fact.
From nothing, with no education,
he's an amazing man.
No background, with no anything that was given to him as an advantage. Coming from that middle of nowhere, you've been to Nkandla, right? In the middle of nowhere, in the middle of rocks. I mean, a whole village which was not even supported by anything, not even a proper road existed at the time. He took it from nothing and made it what people now are bragging about. It's a global term now, Nkandla. So when you think about these things, you've got to be honest about what he has achieved. You've got to be honest about his attempt to change the lives of ordinary people. They call Nkandla a palace, a village with a palace in the middle of it. Go to Nkandla, man. The interior of Nkandla, in terms of the homestead, the randables and 1 or 2 houses there are basic homes, man. Homes that you and I live in. It's nothing opulent and nothing incredibly out of the side. But what do? They frame a narrative of a man living in a palatial life, and outside the confines of society, he doesn't feel the pain. He feels the pain. Go and drive every day between Nkandla to Durban. It takes you almost 2 hours in the most rocky areas, roads and potholes and everything. So you tell me a man who goes to that levels of sacrifice of saying, I will preserve my dignity, I will preserve the identity of my people, I will go back and start from nothing in the middle of nowhere.
Why didn't he develop
and build an identity?
Why didn't he develop Nkandla into a decent town?
It's developing now. Nkandla is currently developing.
Zuma developed Nkandla?
No, not Zuma. I'm saying the town itself.
I'm asking him. Why didn't he develop
How
Nkandla?
is he going to develop Nkandla?
With the power he had.
No, he has people in government. Municipalities are developing Nkandla right now. You've got the current town itself, which is the town of Nkandla, which is coming up right now. So
not under his tenure.
No, because he was in Nkandla. Before he was in Nkandla,
so it's not
there was nothing
tenure.
happening.
It's not under his tenure.
No, during his tenure, that is when the development started to come in numbers.
Okay.
After his tenure, because he chose to stay there as his home state, it became a buzzing, a village.
Sure.
It's one of the most busiest village I've seen so far, right? Okay. So that identity, you've got to give the man a respect, and you've got to give the man his due. He's done his thing.
You don't think Nchabeleng is the reason why he had the budget to be able to do infrastructure investment, which was an ANC vision at the time?
It wasn't Nchabeleng, because he didn't rule during Nchabeleng's era. He was a deputy president.
Yes, I'm saying Uzuma had the funds because Mbeki had helped grow the economy to be able to invest in
they actually
infrastructure.
created most of the funds that they created for infrastructure during the time of Zuma.
It was
not under Mbeki.
Mbeki didn't grow the economy for Zuma to be able to leverage it.
Mbeki did his portion and part.
Yeah.
To the point where when he gave over the baton and Motlanthe came in for that small period, after that then came in the transition into the Zuma era of politics and governance. When they took over from there, a lot of structures were actually set up. They looked for money. Remember, the current building of Mirupi and Kusile was not South African money. Talk about foreign direct investment. It was done by the IMF as well as the World Bank. They got money from the World Bank, right? To build, the current 2 power stations, including the Ngula one, which is the hydro power station. They got money from there.
This was under Zuma?
Yeah, under Zuma.
He went and he got money. The same thing we criticize Ramaphosa for today.
For doing what?
To go get money from the IMF and World
Bank.
Then
build what?
I'm just asking.
Yes.
Build what? He went to go and get money from the IMF
to build
and
what?
Bank. Okay.
They took the money and did what?
No, Ramaphosa
the
said
500 billion which was taken from the IMF as well as the World Bank. What did he do in South Africa? He didn't rescue a single businessman. He didn't build a single power station. He didn't build a single school. He didn't build anything to do with even a house in South Africa. So when you borrow money, what were you borrowing it for? In the case of the administration that was under Zuma, he built power stations.
Wasn't money looted there at those power stations?
No. They looted the money in the projects. And you know who looted it? It was the contractors.
Okay.
It was not Zuma. But everybody says, no, it was Zuma who looted. Zuma didn't even get a cent out of the power plants. But the narrative in South Africa is always written in such a way that we have to constantly be defending one most ridiculous idea, that they believe that the problems of South Africa emanate and come from Zuma. No. This man did more than any president I have seen in the time of their presidency could achieve. I told you, there were mud schools in South Africa. There were roads that were untravelable. There were, we had the project which they finished nicely, which is the Gautrain project. We had the project of the highways, which was actually done over the last 10 years. We had the project of the minor roads, which didn't exist in townships and villages, which were built. So there were infrastructure projects done. But we can sit here and say all of the demonic things and say Zuma was bad. No, he did quite a lot, given his tenure and time. And I think one of the reasons probably inspired him to say, if you come back into power under the banner of MK, right? And MK was able to take back power and have a majority rule. Can you triple or quadruple the gains that you have achieved during that period?
So this is my question to you.
I believe that can be done.
If MK was to be the majority party in South Africa, what would Jacob Zuma or the leadership of MK do differently? And how do you guys sidestep the fight back from white capital, foreign capital, and the people that currently throttle any black development? The same people that throttled Zuma as president of the country and the ANC.
Look, the difference is if you take power as a majority, in 2/3 majority, that is politics now, right?
Okay.
If you take power in a 2/3 majority, the ambient of your scope is unlimited. The problem we have in South Africa right now today is because we have a split power base, whereby if you want to make a decision, you have to still negotiate with all these other entities called political parties that are holding minority interest in terms of voter. 2/3 gives you the ability to say, I've got this 2/3 to change the laws. I'm going to build mega cities for black people.
2/3 is 67%.
Yeah. 2/3 majority. 70% you've got a 2/3, right? You get a 70% of 2/3 voters base. You are able to change the laws without being inhibited. The only pressure you will get, and this is from an outside analyst point of view, the only pressure you'll get is the pressure that the markets externally, your foreign domination in terms of interference will be in South Africa. But other than that, you've got the scope to do SNN what you wish. So if we say we're going to build brand new houses, a minimum house standard is 3 bedrooms, a value of R1 million in terms of its market value to a person who's going to be given that house will be given. We've got to house, say, 20 million South Africans, currently the adult population in South Africa that are deserving for a home, right? We can create that environment. We can say out of our fiscus, using the Reserve Bank, using the treasury that we have, that we are going to create a scheme to build houses, and these houses will be given to adult South Africans that needs home and accommodation and that needs a house for themselves to exist.
How you create RDP homes, basically?
Not even RDP. This was not even our idea.
Better RDP homes. Because people get homes now. 2 bedrooms.
We're talking what the Chinese have done. China does not talk RDP, does not talk, what do you call it, Masklekezele type of a thing.
But it would be free homes is what you're saying.
It must be free. You have to give accommodation and homes to people for free. Other countries are doing it. I was giving an example 2 days ago. I said in Monaco, with the most expensive square mile in the world, Monaco, right? They give you, as a Monaco resident, Monascu, whatever they call each other, they give you accommodation subsidized by the government as a resident and a citizen. They give you education for free. They give you healthcare for free in Monaco because they know you cannot achieve it. You know why?
South Africa.
Yeah, but they are white and they are affluent.
But it
the
sounds
only
like
difference
South Africa.
is it sounds like South Africa, but in an affluent manner. Where
Just
people are
better
living
quality.
well. Yeah, everybody lives well. There's not even a question of whether you're poor or rich. Everybody is at the same level. That's what we want to do in South Africa. When we say we want to live better at the level of whites, if not better than the whites, we mean it in that sense. That we want a lifestyle that South Africans must enjoy, that must be better or equal to the whites, if not better than the white people.
Where will the money come from?
There is money in the treasury. South Africa itself as a state has the money.
You're saying there's enough
own.
money currently.
There's enough money in the treasury.
We wouldn't need more.
You don't even if you need more, you want to introduce, for instance, foreign investment and foreign capital to float it into your market. It will not even do much. You've got enough treasury capability in South Africa. And the reason why they don't want to do it is because they are currently held up ransom by foreign interests that are controlling the South African economy, that continuously threaten them that if you do this with your economy, we're going to pull out.
How will that change if you guys were to get a 67%?
2/3 majority. No, it will change because we will make the laws to say
but
we are going
the
to...
foreign interest will still be there.
No, they will be there, but we will choose our friends properly.
You'd change.
We will
You'd move from the West to BRICS.
Of course, BRICS, not even a doubt. We mustn't even negotiate. If we were to be in power as black majority and MK was to be that party, we will demand on MK that it must represent the interest of the minority.
And you believe that the guys at BRICS, China, Russia and others would be more favorable than the West?
And they've done it for their people. Go to
for
China.
their people, not for others.
So what model are they not going to be able to do with us? When we're saying we're going to China, for instance, to go and ask for expertise, ask for assistance in terms of developmental, ideas and in information and knowledge, right? We want the skills. Do you know how China developed over the last 60 years ago? China sent people overseas. They went into America, they went into Europe. They said we're going to do an exchange of labor for skills.
Sure.
What they did is they sent them into the best of factories in Europe as well as the Americas and everything. They trained them in electronics and everything. 5-year program, they bring those people back into China and they say set up the same thing. At the time, they wanted to be the doormat, which they call themselves the manufacturing hub, the most cheapest destination for manufacturing of the world. And they created it. Then now they are in another trajectory. Last week they were sitting in their own political caucus where they decided that the next 5 years of China will be now to exporting China's expertise and knowledge out into the world. And to do that, they will have to become the manufacturer of high-end technology as well as product and production, because they've already exhausted the low cost, the low production market as well as economy. Their models are already at robotics level. You've got mega factories that don't have human beings. But what they've done is they've taken their people into the knowledge economy. They've taken them into this new age of AI. They have now commoditized most of the information and data that is available, which is worth trillions. Your data as an individual today to the market is worth trillions, and they're trading it quietly. So China has been able to use this research and knowledge and information that they had. They competed with the world without creating any revolution.
Would MKP want to copy China?
We must copy China.
Okay, so in copying China, number one, you'd need to exploit the labor of your people. No one talks about that. Yourself, MKP, Floyd Shibambu, even when he was at the EFF, you have to exploit your people's labor. You have to be comfortable with that. Number two, you have to be comfortable with copying people's intellectual property and creating counterfeit goods and flooding the world. And then number three, you must be happy with some type of a surveillance or authoritarian government where the people can't move and the government, the state, has got the ultimate power. Is that what you're saying MKP is
You're
looking
making
to do?
it seem like it's a bad thing. Exploiting people's labor, which means giving them jobs and opportunities. It's not exploitation.
The apartheid government did it.
No, exploitation. Remember, there's two sides. They say China is a bad exploitative society because it creates slave-like labor conditions. I've been through China. I've traveled China. I've been through many regions in China. I've gone to factories because I came in with the same preconceived ideas. And as I traveled China more and more, and I could see some of the ideas that they told us about China, I said, no, but these people were misleading us. Because China has created homes, has created factories, has created cities, has created special economic zones, which are towns out of nothing. They took villages.
The apartheid government did the same by exploiting
and
black
that's why
labor.
I don't have a problem with what apartheid did.
Exploiting black labor?
In terms of, not exploitation. I hate apartheid for the exploitation, the segregation, and the human injustices and human rights injustices that they did upon black people. They exploited us because they wanted us laborers for free. Remember, they gave us what? They took us into their camps. They used to call them the camps or camps, mining labor camps, right? They then created the townships out of that. They then gave our people stipends, which was not even income for survival. They kept them in this what do you call it? Where you go to, it's a camps, right? They created an environment where black people were actually confined to that labor camp and they couldn't do anything. We're not looking at that level of development.
But you don't think if you gave the apartheid government another couple of decades, they would have also, like China, gone in tranches, and at some point,
No. China,
black people would have been uplifted.
China and apartheid South Africa at the time were no different because they were all pursuing the same industrialization trajectory. The only thing is in South Africa, they did it in an inhumane way and in an apartheid manner, which blacks were not considered part of the economy and were excluded out of the economy. In China, the Chinese are part of the economy and they're included. When they are building a railway, they don't build it from here, which is Sandton, to a suburb in Pretoria, which is Hartfield or Waterkloof.
Yeah.
They build a road for everyone to connect in order to move goods, services, and people throughout the whole region of China. And everyone has a decent home. Subsidized houses, they do price controls for who pays for what. Even bread and food and everything is controlled. They have a surveillance society.
What's that, communism?
Yeah, it's under communism, but they call it with a new flavor of embracing capitalism, of creating the Chinese capitalism, right? And then they created what? The surveillance economy. Why would you want to create an economy and thrive? And then afterwards have it to such an extent whereby you can have external influence that is going to come in and destroy what you have done in terms of successes. Most of the empires that collapsed were a collapse because of spies and empire infiltrators who came to collapse the greatness of an empire. The same thing the Chinese are doing. Why they are running a surveillance society is because they have to surveil. You and I are surveilled on a daily basis. Our WhatsApp messages, our everything that we do on social media is surveilled. But who is surveilling it?
The Americans.
The Americans.
So
you're using their satellites.
MKP doesn't necessarily believe in freedom of privacy.
No, privacy you have. It's your independent right. We don't have, you see, from an MKP
in China, they don't have that.
And I'm going into the politics of MK because I'm not supposed to be talking for MK.
That's why I was asking that we could put it to the side.
My ambition to see MK succeed as an individual would say MK should be the litany of hope. One, on changing the things that were wrong in the past to making sure that they can preserve the dignity of our people, raise their level of standard of living, improve the element of education, the quality of the skills, as well as giving our black people hope to live a great life. On top of it, return our legacy, our land, which was stolen. I just told you about my heritage, my family land alone, from the Pedi people, from the Sukukune, from the Pedi people's land, which was lost, and its heritage of minerals, wealth, as well as resources.
Let me ask my last question, then we leave MK.
So, on an MK point of view, if MK can achieve that.
If you guys never get to 67%, you can't implement any of this.
No.
So if you get like 60%, we still have to hear stories.
No, you can't. You will be negotiating with adversaries.
So it's 67% or nothing.
That is why I said we have to impress. And this is the campaign that people must understand. You have to impress upon each and every South African to understand that belonging to this majority is like the identity of what you were talking about, the Afrikaners. Now let's create a super black African group.
67% or nothing.
67% or nothing.
Or nothing.
We must not negotiate
Which means
less.
MK will never be able to achieve any of its wishes until it gets to 67%.
2029, you can get 67%
No, I understand.
minimum.
But if you never get there.
Right now, between now and then, there is not any grand idea of what you can achieve.
I'm just saying, if MK in our lifetime never gets to 67%,
we're not working for in our lifetime. Me, I'm not going to be in a movement that tells me in my lifetime we will achieve freedom. No. It must be done now.
My question still stands.
If it doesn't achieve it in the next 5 years, we have to
in our
relook.
lifetime.
No, I don't want to work on a lifetime. I'm saying.
So if you don't get 67% in 2029.
I say to you, as an activist, any political party that does not change the trajectory, does not inspire the people, that in the next 5 years we are going to make such strides to make sure that we've got these numbers. And if South Africa don't have the confidence in them, then they have to find another means to find a way of getting to the 67 or majority rule level.
So if officially, whether criminal or whatever, if MK doesn't reach 67% in 2029, you're leaving them?
I don't have no hope right now to go anywhere. When am I going to leave to do what?
Okay, no problem. I'm done with MK. Sir, you are here to speak about South Africa.
I want to speak about South Africa.
Please go.
MK is a project that belongs to Konvo Sizwe, its people. I sit in the ranks of the leadership, but I am not here to talk on behalf of MK. What I can tell you is the ideas that inspired most of us on how to make sure that we shape the trajectory of our people. But I come back to one thing, Penuel. Why is it that it's so bad as South Africans to aspire for a majority rule so that we can change the trajectory of our lives?
We have different visions. I don't think we have a nationalist identity, and I think trying to force people doesn't work. We are a tribalist country, whether you blame the Bantustans or whatever the case may be, but we're very tribalist. We are racist, many of us. We are colorist, some of us. We're just not the same. You find the same guys that come from your village, go to the same schools, are exposed to the same thing, and they want something different. And trying to force them, unfortunately, requires a form of dictatorship and bullying and forcing. Otherwise, giving people freedom and democracy, we are too different. And then when you add the human nature of greed, anyone who gets a bit of an advantage will want to preserve it and want to get more. Which means you and I leave our own blood families in the villages, and we want a better house in Sandhurst or Saxonwold. So we don't have a single vision. And our leadership, which is normally how I rate countries and organizations, our leadership still sells this idea of freedom and democracy. They're not saying, MK, we will force you to join MK because this is the vision. Whether you like it or not, kicking or screaming. If you speak Zulu, shame. We're going to be a Sotho country. We're going to speak Sesotho. This is what we're building, and we will do whatever it takes. That's the reason we can't have a unified
And maybe
agenda.
it might need to take a miracle. Have maybe one area, maybe take KwaZulu-Natal, for instance.
Sure.
That gave major numbers, for instance, to a political party like MK. If KwaZulu-Natal were to all agree that, listen, we're going to select one party under MK, all of our other parties, we can collapse it and collaborate. They give MK a majority, and then under that majority, they bring each other together under an umbrella of creating a 2/3 majority party voter structure. For instance, right? You have a 70%. MK has 45%. They bring in the balance of it. It creates a 70%. They then take, for instance, KwaZulu-Natal and create it into a liberated zone where they can experiment their ideas.
That's federalism.
Why not?
Independent
Provincial
KZN.
structure currently gives you that level of
Independent
doing
KZN.
not independent, a KZN that can experiment ideas on development in terms of people, development in terms of economic thrust, as well as radical economic transformation.
That's not independent.
Bringing people, it's not independence. We're talking about transformation and economic growth.
Okay.
Remember the independence of saying, let's break away from the state. This is the same concept that comes in again. The Cape Province, so-called Cape, that needs to so-called break away from South Africa, is trying to experiment with the same ideas. But we know the motives around the Cape exit. The Cape exit is based on one, they want to create some kind of a federal state, which is outside South Africa, and eventually become an independent Cape with its own republic identity. We're not fighting for that. We're not going to allow for Cape to be broken away from South Africa and fragment it further and make sure that we have this balkanization of South Africa and Africa. We want to unify South Africa, but have areas that are so-called liberated economically.
Bantustans.
No, not Bantustan. KwaZulu-Natal, remember, we spoke from the onset that
Why
was
is it
an
not a
amalgamation.
Bantustan and why is it not
because under
independent Cape?
the Zulus are easy. When they see a vision of greatness, they will support you.
Why is it not a Bantustan?
It's not a Bantustan. The Bantustan ended then, before when we came
But the
out
model
of
you're
apartheid.
proposing sounds like a federal state.
Look,
It sounds like
a federal state
Bantustan.
for me is not even the idea. I'm saying to you, take an area. It's like KwaZulu-Natal as a province.
Autonomy of economy, autonomy of politics, autonomy
and not
of-
only that, economic growth. Everything in politics today, if it does not produce a social dividend, a give back to the people, which is economic growth, as well as improving and changing the lives of our people, it's useless. You can talk all the rhetoric. So if they can experiment with that model, create from wherever border of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, say, for instance, the wilderness, from the wilderness, which is the border of KwaZulu-Natal, to the end of
Durban in the south.
yeah, not even Durban South, to the end of to the beginning of Mozambique.
Or Nchabeleng, those areas.
Nchabeleng, yeah, all right. Once you at that border, you take this stretch of that whole seaport, transform it, create whatever you want. Dubai.
How do you keep non-Zulus out?
No, you don't have to keep anybody out.
Everyone can come in.
Like Johannesburg. When
Everyone
they
can
created
come
the
in.
economic hub in Johannesburg, they didn't tell people don't come to Johannesburg. They said this is going to be the most extremely hyper developmental economic zone. All the skills that were needed came in numbers, pouring into that region.
You don't think it will be overpopulated, that area?
You need overpopulation so that you can then cater for it. Remember,
Like foreigners in Joburg?
No, we're not talking foreigners. We're talking South Africans.
Or you'd want to keep foreigners out?
No, we don't.
As long as they're South African.
South African economic trajectory policy is not anchored on saying foreigners this and foreigners that. We don't want to have a situation where we are conflating our people. Our people needs development. The question of illegal foreigners in South Africa is not something that we should be even entertaining, because nobody else entertains it anyway, even in Africa. I travel Africa regularly. When I go to Africa, they tell me, what are you coming here to do? Who are you with? They want to see all of your approvals and everything. And they tell you, as soon as you're finished, please leave. You've done your business, right? You've done whatever you came here to do.
Yeah.
If you stay, you know what they do to you? They will imprison you immediately. They will, after that, they will what? They will send you out of the country.
They'll deport you.
Deport you. So why are we still tolerant to the issues of illegal immigration in South Africa? People who come into South Africa must come within legal documents, with legal paperwork, with proper business that they want to do, and they must come and add value to the economy. You cannot have already an ailing country like South Africa and then come and create further problems for it.
Uthabo Mbeki sat with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, and he said that you can't stop Africans from coming into South Africa. And what Dudula and these guys must forget.
No, I think maybe they misread. The issue of stopping the immigration crisis is through legislation and laws that must be implemented. You've got a better border management agency. The border management agency must start doing its job. If people are in South Africa illegal, please do what is within the confines of the law. If I go out here and do something outside, they call me a criminal, right? They will arrest me. Very soon they will take me through the processes and then I'll be convicted. Why are we not doing the same with this crime? Because being in South Africa is illegal by itself and is a crime. So why must we be going up, beating around the bush? So we're not talking. We want people who come from Africa come in under legal conditions. They settle within South Africa within legal conditions. And then after that, do their business legally. And make sure they can carry out their work.
I interrupted you. You were speaking about piloting KZN as a case study.
Come back to piloting KZN. When you want to pilot an area, you make sure that you prioritize every element of its development. Economic, social, cultural, political, as well as financial. So you create KZN as a hub of excellence on every of these levels. You bring in the skills from South Africans. You've got a lot of educated South Africans who are sitting mostly at home, not even knowing what should be doing.
Yeah.
But if government says, guys, we have a program we want to develop, for instance, the beach ocean economy. All right. We want to, from the beach right into the ocean, we want to create an economy out of it. Come on the table, bring us proposals, bring us ideas, tell us what you can do. People will be bringing ideas on what can be done. Then the state becomes the driver of that. Like what is happening in China. They wanted to go into manufacturing. It was not the Chinese government that manufactured. It was the government that says we will fund you, we will support you into these manufacturing programs, but bring the ideas of what you can manufacture. They manufactured everything from sweets to plastic to cars to everything. Today they are doing high-end manufacturing. Televisions, electronics, technology, semiconductors. They are competing with the world on semiconductor, technology. To the point where they released the law now that if you were to export any mineral resource out of China, not even illegal, you were to export it out, it's actually illegal, an illegal action.
Hey.
You will be criminal. So they don't even allow their minerals to be exported.
The stuff you're speaking about now is your vision for South Africa.
It's my vision as South African.
It's not political party affiliated. It's just if any political party, business person, NPO, ordinary citizen wants South Africa to work, they must listen to your vision.
You have to follow the rule of saying, guys, let's come together.
Yeah.
I have identified already my umbrella. It's within the MK.
Sure.
It gives us the scope of doing what we want to achieve. So within that umbrella, we can achieve these ideas and dreams.
Okay. Can I ask questions? That's all you wanted to say. So we're done. We can end.
No. We're not done. We're talking MK.
No, we're not speaking MK.
We're talking about MK.
Speaking about South Africa. I've got a couple of questions. I don't know if we'll get a chance to answer them. And I don't know how long your answers are. Number one, I wanted to ask you, why do you believe we're not capacitating tribal courts? I've got an issue with the fact that customary law is being tested and ruled upon in the Roman, Dutch, British courts currently. So why are they not being capacitated to become their own courts? If I marry customarily, if we've got a dispute that has to do with a cultural matter, it goes straight to a tribal court. Why are we not doing that? Number two, in your opinion, why do you think Eskom is working all of a sudden after Andre de Ruyter? Number three, I just wanted to ask your views on nationalization versus what we have. Okay. And I think you've answered number four, your thoughts on borders.
Yeah.
Why not capacitate tribal courts? Why is Eskom working? And do you believe in nationalization?
Okay, let's start maybe on the tribal courts. The South African constitution says that they recognize the rule of tribal authorities and tribal leaders. But it's actually not a recognition. It's just to say, we know you exist. They have not given institutional capacity.
There's no power.
There's no power. And you cannot go to any village where you will find a proper established court system with a jurisdiction to take decisions and implement them. So
all
if
the way
you've got
to the end.
Tribal disputes within the community
Small
and
things.
whatever, they can't even administrate on that.
Like mediation.
I come out of the royal village where we have the same. The only thing we have is a little hall here where we just sit and we discuss tribal matters.
It's mediation.
That's just there's not even mediation of real issues. We just get to receive letters and communication, and there's festivals, for instance, honale menyalo, honale remamilwe for an event, and it's just tribal activities. It's not really institutional. We are not a jurisdiction in terms of where a court can be established. a judge within the tribal authority structure can be established. We will have a process by which within the legal framework in terms of whether it is sentencing, whether it's to hearing a matter, whether it's arbitration, whether it's to do with implementation of sentences and everything can be implemented. So the Constitution was smart in giving it's like an umbrella cover, but does not mean all of us in the umbrella are the same.
But this is low-hanging fruit, right?
You see, it's a low-hanging fruit.
Along with what is Inyanga and Nezangoma, who are also not formalized.
What tribal leaders should be doing is to demand their formal recognition, and the demand must be saying that we want to have institutionalization of our tribal authority structure. And they don't have to go too far, because half of what Europe is using at the judiciary level, the Roman Dutch law as well as the Latin, was African by origin anyway. The court system was created by African people. The settlement of disputes. Europe was caught up in its own, days of eating each other and killing each other.
Bathing.
They were not even bathing at the time. So we brought in the civilization.
Sorry, sis. Aircon, please. Oh, thank you, Tebza. Sorry.
We brought in the civilization through these processes, judiciary, education, the learning, the scientific world and everything. So we shouldn't feel bad taking back that which belongs rightfully to us,
so the issue
and
is
implementing it within our tribal structures.
The issue is the weakness of the traditional leaders.
Yeah, the traditional leaders have not been empowered enough.
And they must be empowered, or they are weak themselves.
No, they have to be empowered.
Who empowered you?
No, in terms of my empowerment, I told you, I came from a township where I was able with the basic infrastructure to improve my life.
Yourself?
But the state.
Yourself?
No, it was created by a state. At the time, it was a Bantustan state.
The state empowered you?
Yeah, the state has to be at the center of our development.
So the same state must empower traditional leaders?
Yes.
Otherwise, they can't do it on their own.
How are they going to do it? One little chief without even income, with not even a car, with not even anything to work on. Most of his people are working in Gauteng and only coming to visit the village once in a year.
I think what I'm trying to ask is, they are waiting. It's not like they're being proactive to actually put things together.
There is where you're right. They need to force, like I said to you, traditional leaders and tribal leaders must demand on the government to give them these levers of support.
But they're not, because they're weak.
Right now, it's not happening.
Because they're weak.
Maybe they are weak, but they need to be strengthened.
Are they not weak?
Right now, tribal leaders are not weak in the sense where you're saying they're weak. I'm saying they are not given. Right now, you have two structures in tribal authorities. You've got a municipality that works autonomously and independent from tribal authority, which does not recognize the existence of supporting the tribal lineage, right? So what you need to do is force the municipalities to have part of their program as a tribal authority-based structure. So
isn't that the tribal leaders
you
that
go
must
to
do that?
Hamlocho, right?
Yes.
Hamlocho, if the chief or induna of Hamlocho, right? Because they are not kings and stuff, right? If the induna says, guys, we agree that we have a municipality. We are going to force an agreement with the municipality to make sure that they sit and work with us in creating our tribal courts, our tribal judiciary system, our tribal, arbitration model. And then we create the infrastructure there, and then we start administrating it. How do we develop our land? Comes the second thing, spatial planning. You bring in the municipality with this expertise as well. You say to them, we want to develop our village, but in a much more modern, in a much more smart way, in a much more futuristic outlook. And we want to bring in people who would come in and invest in terms of our development. What do we need to do? What can you help us at the spatial planning level? So the thinking has to change.
If you do now, Inkosi Yakwamlocha is not doing that, then they're weak.
No, an individual may be weak, but the Induna system in South Africa is not weak. They are organized, they are well mobilized, but they don't have the necessary resources. Everything in South Africa comes down to rands and cents. Like I told you, how the Afrikaners were established. They managed to create their development on the backbone of the state. We are the only people, when we want to use the state for our development, we are told that we are entitled. What is entitlement about using the state, which is supposed to be a collective of people and citizens, in order to empower themselves collectively? So the state must always be at the center. That's why I said to you, you go to China, you go to Saudi Arabia, the state under the people who are the custodians, the princes as well as the rulers of, for instance, the Middle East, are all using the state. Nobody has their own. They're all little personal money.
Our states and our state leaders are weak.
Yeah, maybe they are weak. So
maybe they're weak.
We have to have you from
Why are you so diplomatic?
No, I'm diplomatic because I cannot insult our leaders. This is our tribal leaders.
The apartheid leaders were unapologetic about Afrikaner empowerment. The British leaders were unapologetic about English empowerment. To what you're saying, you're right.
And that's why I support your
We
view.
hesitate on empowering.
Yeah, that's why I said I support your view.
Sure.
Let's take from what apartheid did great and amplify upon it and make sure we make it even greater and make sure we make it even better. They did it for a minority. They are only segment of whites, white in terms of English as well as Afrikaans, and the other small little nations, Greeks and Portuguese and stuff. We need to do it for our people at a mass level. You massify that process and you make sure it's at the center of it. It's fine. The numbers are great because it will give us the scale, economies of scale. If you're a businessman, you know numbers is what gives you the economies of scale. So numbers mustn't be shocking us. It must actually give us the impetus to make sure that we do transformation. When you look at Dubai, how many citizens are in Dubai?
I don't know.
You can check it out. It's less than 2 million.
It's a small group. It's like
So very
Singapore.
small,
It's like
right?
Monaco. So when
Yeah,
people
it's
use
very
these
small.
examples,
So
I always
when
cringe.
you talk about the bigger, for instance, Dubai or UAE, most of it are people who come in to settle in the region for economic prosperity and for economic development.
That's correct.
So you need that kind of a model. The minority of your people, you then expunge them to becoming a bigger, larger group with people coming in with relevant skills and expertise to come in and spend and help in growing the economic model of your country. What we are not doing is following that trajectory. We are too caught up in our little funny, petty politics of stopping each other from doing things.
Sorry, there's 4 million people in Dubai. I
4
just want to
million.
find out how many Emiratis.
Yeah. We want the
specifically-
Emiratis themselves. It's a very small group.
They say 12%. I wanted a number. But 12% of 4 million, yeah.
4 million is about.
Because most of the other people are foreigners that are coming there just to work or run businesses. You're right. Okay. Why do you think Eskom is working currently? Andre Director gave us the worst load shedding ever. And then as soon as he left, Omteto Nyati and the guys seemed to just switch the power back on.
No, we had to fight a big war. The reason I can sit today here and talk as I wish, for instance, is because I'm one of the few people who fought for the end of load shedding. Because we knew it was a lie. We knew it was pretext on an agenda to collapse Eskom. The only title why I could even be considered to be, for instance, in the echelon of parliament is because I came in on expertise level on the basis that, one, we were able to reverse through social mobilization and civil society pressure and educating of our people about what was happening within the Eskom echelons on how they were trying to break it down. If you could recall, what they started doing is they started implementing staged load shedding. Small at a time, incremental to the point where the system was almost looking like it's collapsing, and before you know it, everything will be gone.
Yeah, we're at stage
And they
6
had
to stage
created-
8.
Yeah, they were even talking it when we were doing stage 6 at the time. They were even talking about dialing it up to stage 16. They had even had crazy ideas like that. This thing is not feasible, it cannot work and everything. But what did the people do on the ground? When the pressure started mounting up based on the social civil activist campaigns that we put out, Transform RSA was one of the organizations in the forefront at the time, which I was leading, in advocating for against the element of breaking down and the privatization of Eskom. We fought that war, we fought it viciously, and we took on the people who were at the helm of this agenda. Andre de Ruyter was just introduced as one of the people that would make sure he dials up the dial of load shedding to the highest degree. Because he
Who
came
were the people behind the agenda?
Look, currently it was the markets who were interested in privatization of Eskom. Remember, Eskom has a huge revenue. It's sitting with almost currently 380 billion in revenue annually.
Jeez.
It's one of the biggest companies in the country, one of the biggest companies in Africa. So if you take a company like that, privatize its assets, give it into private hands, within a year or two, it will be worth over $1 trillion in terms of revenue. So it's a money game.
Who are the markets?
Currently, the guys who are sitting with the funds at the stock exchange, they wanted to buy a part of Eskom.
Who are those people?
No, it's not individuals, it's corporation interests.
Who are
They
those
even
corporations?
expressed it. I don't want to come in here and sound almost controversial, but there were companies that said very clearly that if you do not break down Eskom, if you do not privatize it, and if you do not go to a point where you start selling off the electricity generation, leave the grid to South Africans, but the electricity generation, which is where the money is made, you are not going to help South Africa in terms of its economic trajectory. They wrote articles They were, even the banks were behind it,
Okay.
to say break down this Eskom and privatize it, to the point where they forced the government. Currently, it was passed a law last year, I think, around January, February, where they said the privatization of Eskom and the breaking up of Eskom into the different holding units should exist, which was called that process, where everybody said we don't need transmission, must be left to South Africans, distribution must be given to municipalities, and then generation, which is the power plants, must be privatized to IPPs. You know the list of IPPs that they tried to create in South Africa. The agenda behind the independent power producers was eventually, among the independent power producers, Eskom will be one of the independent power producers. We just came in and fought a vicious fight at an intellectual, at a professional level, at an academic level with academia. We even fought it with the Eskom executives. And we put pressure on the government. We went in, at the time we were still within the ANC. We fought within the ANC to say, no, this is unacceptable that you're going to privatize Eskom through the back door.
Why don't you want to mention names?
No, in terms of controversiality, I don't want to be. I don't.
Is it controversial?
No. Remember, when I say to you, say for instance, Standard Bank was against the funding of coal in South Africa. What does that mean? Which means they were not interested in supporting the growth and development of power plants in South Africa. Standard Bank will take an offense against me.
I know Nedbank has a green fund currently.
No, the Nedbank has a green fund.
Yeah.
So I'm saying there are companies that are already established that were fighting to buy power stations.
You don't want to mention them.
They're multinationals.
So Cyril Ramaphosa, who's married to Patrice Motsepe's sister, and Jeff Radebe, who's also married to another Patrice Motsepe's sisters, these people were standing to benefit from this. Patrice himself was rumored to be involved in 12 of the IPP licenses.
He owns IPPs, Patrice. Yes.
Cyril becomes one of the guys who's influential at Eskom.
Cyril owns IPPs as well.
Through himself.
Yeah, he owns IPPs.
With Abo Glencore, they supplied diesel to Petros A.
Cyril was the first IPP owner of diesel suppliers.
But this is why I'm asking, why are you not mentioning
No, it's
names?
not. Remember, I said to you, in
Because
terms
some of these
names
guys
of
are still in
corporations.
power.
For me, what I'm saying to you is when we start saying this kind of things and saying so and so and so and so, these guys are just lackeys. Cyril, Patrice, you can talk about Jeff, they're not even at the level of 1%. The real money of Eskom and the power levers that were controlling the movement of Eskom from the state to independent producers was driven by multinationals, governments, external governments. European governments, Germany,
America.
Britain, you have France as well, you have Americans who are interested in the sly of Eskom.
They want to own our energy in South Africa.
Energy generation. That is why today it's okay to talk about nuclear. Why? Because the multinational companies that are already established, that are owned by certain governments, are going to stand to benefit. Okay. It's not going to be the Russians that are going to benefit. The new current nuclear program is not based on a Russian plan. It's based on multinationals that are usually in Europe as well as America. So that is the whole plan around it. So as I said to you, foreign interference in our economy is big. And these are companies that are set up, that are owned by governments that want to destroy South Africa's economic sovereignty. Energy, why we fought this energy structure battle was, energy is the heartbeat of what a civilization is based on. From every civilization, they started off with fire. From fire, it became what? Industrialization. From industrialization, it became technology. Currently, in the fourth industrial revolution, if you don't have electricity, you cannot even talk podcasting, you cannot even talk data center, you cannot even talk setting up the lights, because everything else is dependent on electricity. What collapsed South Africa's economic gains was the absence of electricity in our economy. When we started having this load shedding, everything almost is to an end.
And you could started during Thabo Mbeki's tenure.
Yeah. So when Zuma came in and disrupted the notion of load shedding and created a load shedding free environment, he became a target number one as well. And today they are number one enemies in the society. These were the guys who were, some of them at the top. I mean, if you could remember, Brian was one of the darlings of Capital. Was a blue blood. He was a blue-eyed boy in Capital. They loved him through Treasury. When he was in Treasury, they loved him. In PIC, they loved him extremely. The only problem is when he questioned Glencore boss.
Yes.
And he told him where to get off.
Ivan Klassenberg.
At the time. And when he did that, that's when he became an enemy, number one. And they said this is a very dangerous darky, because he can question white people.
He also helped with vendor financing of the Guptas.
No, I don't know if he financed the Guptas because
No, not finance. He helped with vendor financing, and he tried to explain, Uti, this is standard procedure for everyone. That also added to what you're saying.
Yeah, but if you wanted to say the Guptas were financed by Brian, that would be a really a narrative that is wrong.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm saying he came in and challenged the price. If I could tell you facts, at the time, I think the highest paid tonnage of coal at the time within Eskom was about 1,440 rands, which was paid to one of the biggest mining companies in South Africa.
Which is?
One of the blue chips, right?
Which
was
is?
paid that. I don't want to go into that one.
Why not?
No, it's fine. Well, secondary. Then the Guptas came and said we will give a ton at, I think they offered it at around 150.
Very cheap.
Rand.
Very cheap price for
From
quality coal.
1,400. So how do you make the numbers and say this will be acceptable? Anybody who's going to lose that 1.4 premium and be competing, even if they sold it at 400 rands
Sure.
a ton or 500 rand a ton, was still cheaper than 1,400.
That's what
So
Brian
it
Molefe
meant
was trying to explain.
That they will take the dominant market share from the current suppliers. And that is why they were demonized. That's one of the reasons they were demonized. One of the other reasons that the Guptas got demonized, by the way, I landed very late, is they went into the nuclear industry. And according to global rules, in the finance world and in the world of capital, they tell you very openly that play with everything, but don't play with nuclear as an industry. Because nuclear is regarded as state and is regarded as a global power base. So anybody who goes into nuclear as an individual, not a state, poses a major existential risk and a threat and has to be tackled down. That's the reason why they were tackled down. Remember, they owned nuclear mines in terms of uranium mines. They wanted to set up a refinery plants for a nuclear refinery. And then they wanted to go into the element of doing nuclear energy production with partnerships around the world. They were looking at several countries that they could work with. And that posed the problem.
I just want to mention, Bill Gates has got a nuclear business called Terra Power.
Yeah, it's an
individual
innovation company that is they're using recycled nuclear energy, and they are creating a SMR, which is a small modular reactor. So they are doing an experimental. Soon modular reactors will be acceptable, but nuclear industry in that scale of it, where you can mine uranium, refine uranium, and when you talk refinement of uranium, we're talking about enrichment, which can be military-grade enrichment, which creates you nuclear bombs. So you're already now at a problem state where you're not going to be accepted from an individual point of view in order to do it. I even know some of the most deep secrets of what happened. When this organization, for instance, wanted to go into the refinery business, a couple of engineers, for instance, in Australia, who were about to help the Guptas in helping them in creating a refinery for their nuclear refinery, were told very openly that, guys, you can see you're nice, polite people, and you are doing good money. Continue your engineering work. Forget about this sector and this project that you're going into. Because if you go into it, it will kill you all. So this is a kind of sabotage and saboteur that is happening in broad daylight, but it's not done by people who look horrible. These are Nkabis these are done by highly affluent people, well dressed in suits. They work for the greatest banks you can ever imagine, and they are extremely fluent in capital, in money, and in power, and they control people in power.
Yes.
So how are you going to now fight an enemy like that when you're not properly in power yourself? So one of the things we didn't do well, there's a great man who said that Black Power has not organized itself properly because it does not talk about capital structure. We're the only people who want power without capital.
And weapons.
Without money.
And weapons.
And weapons, we'll build it when you have money. Remember, money gives you the ability to buy anything. If you've got a problem with money, you can solve it.
Sure.
You can buy a solution, you can buy assistance, you can buy your way out, you can settle your way out like they do in corporations. They do out-of-court settlements for their big problems, and they don't get prosecution. That is why you hardly will find big executives of companies being prosecuted, because companies can lay out capital to release their people out of that kind of a situation. Black Power in South Africa lacks the imagination to come together as a solid base. Politics is one layer, but you cannot talk politics without the money.
Sure.
So you need to have the basis of money, you need to have the basis of business, you need to have the basis of politics, where you can take politicians like me and you, other people who are interested in politics, who will then be able to be the front of your ideas politically. That is why white monopoly capital can do it easily, because they've got the basis of it. They've got the money, they can buy politicians. They've got the power, they can build industries. They've got the money to control media as well as the companies. They've got the money to control the global narrative.
Yeah.
So we have not built the lever. We have to build this black power through capital, through excellence, through building structure where we can rebuild ourselves from the basis of where we are a collapsed nation and people. You and I sitting here, we can argue all day. But if we're not going to create something different out of our argument, it's useless.
True.
So I'm not interested in political ideologies that do not deliver dividend to our black people. We have to start talking about saying, guys, let's agree. We have differences in political aspirations, political ideas, political ambitions. But one ambition we all want is to change the destiny of our people. How do we come together to make sure that we build a black power base, a solid one? And we choose a political structure. We say we're going to fund you to make sure that you do this for us. We're going to make sure that we come into your structures and we become the people that are going to champion this lever of ideological debate as well as changing our people. Building houses is easy. We've got bricklayers, man. We've got architects. We've got people who can build you roads and who can build you skyscrapers. That's not the problem. It's the capital base. That is why you have a central boss in South Africa called the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Because they've got the capital base. That 14 trillion that is sitting there, they can use it daily. That 12 trillion that they have, the assets that they are sitting with in mortgages, the assets that they are sitting with in your debt against the banks and against all those companies that they've borrowed, they can use that in their lever to build a society of their own. What I am aspiring for with what we have done with Eskom, where we've changed the end of load shedding. They can all jump around and talk about load shedding ending today. It's because we fought a hard fight. When we stopped the load shedding trajectory and we opposed and we organized against the introduction of privatization of Eskom. They're still trying to do it in other name other than privatization, but it's not succeeding as they had wished because they are meeting up with all of the barriers. And now it's worse. In Parliament, they cannot just do as they wish because now they have another outfit called MK that is stopping them in doing anything that they want, and they have to account to the people on some of these trajectories of their so-called privatization. And it's so wonderful now that you start even seeing ANC people saying, you know what, in corners to say, guys, we agree with you. We're not against your ideas of non-privatization. We are not against the ideas of the state controlling our economy and being at the center of our development. It's the bosses that are currently on top of us that are giving us the pressure to do some of these things. So
the bosses being who? Ramaphosa?
Yeah, the president. Yeah, a few of them. Gwede actually, if he would have it his way, he wouldn't be in the ANC. Because he doesn't agree with some of the things that they do. He is pro-nationalization, but he knows the reality.
He's a gatekeeper, though, at the Department of Mineral.
He has to be at his age. What else is he going to do?
But that sounds like an excuse. That's selling out.
Yeah, he sold out for his own sake and survival. Most of them have sold out for that reason. Ramaphosa, if he had to go anything radical today, they will bankrupt him tomorrow because half of his money is based on stock market evaluation as well as speculation.
Paper money.
It's not real money. He doesn't own refectories of production. He doesn't own bakeries in South Africa that produces bread for 62 million people. He doesn't own the streets and the roads that we all work from, the hospitals and everything. It's all based on paper money, speculative economy. So if you change tune, like what they did to Elon in America, the minute he started disagreeing, they said, dude, we can kick out Tesla out of the US. You must choose your language. And unfortunately, the biggest billionaires choose to say, listen, money over, my narrative and rhetoric.
For me, it was a reminder that people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and sometimes even when we speak about Johan Rupert and stuff, are proxies for other bigger corporate power. It's easy when you see a black person like Patrice, but we don't think about it when we see like Elon Musk.
And your other friend, what's his name? The white guy who talks a lot.
Rob Hersov.
I mean, he's just one of them. He's just one of the proxies. He's not even big in the hierarchy of anything. I mean, Rob Hersov doesn't have corporations, doesn't have anything. He just has inherited a bit of wealth here and there. But he's not a mega billionaire. He's nobody.
But he has this voice where he's trying to preserve the so-called great white, whatever, civilization and people. But he hasn't been able to make a difference. People don't understand that we are not fighting whites against anything they've done for themselves. Great, enjoy what you have done. We want to live a better life now. Better than whites, if not greater than whites. That's our ambition. We want to build this economy. We want to build what is called the new black heaven and the new black earth, our new reality on this earth today. That's what we want to achieve. So if those ideas are intimidating to other people, you can either deal with us by either dealing away with us, put us in prison for these ideas, by coming up with every other ideas around us. They criminalize all of us who come up with this kind of ideas. They put you through the court system. They want to jail you. They want to find out something about your life and everything. But when they start realizing that they're failing and the majority is rising, that's when they start finding ways of actually capturing. In our case, we have been through that 30 years of learning. We want to see what we can do different. My passion as an individual is to make a difference. I come from a village which is still the most poorest. Yet, out of it, there's over 500 companies with mineral rights that are mining the region.
Jeez.
With listed companies in the stock exchange that are mining the region and making billions, not millions, billions.
So it's not poor anymore, it's developing.
No, the whole area has been, but what are they doing? Extractive economy. They take the ore from the mine, wash it out, put it onto the railway, and then either put it onto the trucks, and then they take it out of South Africa. It's not processed locally. It's not developed locally. The industries are not done locally. So we're still a long way from our own ambitions. So I'm saying, let's stop our bickering about each other.
Do you believe in nationalization? Number one, and number two,
I'm a strong...
Why aren't you guys merging with the EFF?
Look, we've tried.
So number one, do you believe in nationalization?
I believe totally in nationalization.
Okay.
We have to nationalize strategic assets.
Okay.
We have to nationalize strategic sectors of South Africa for the sake of our own economy.
Why not merge with the EFF?
Look, I think the EFF debate and merging has already started long ago. The only challenge within the EFF is Julius makes decisions as an individual on behalf of the EFF as a movement. I think if they gave the EFF this question of seeing the political development and trajectory, why would you not go into a power merging or even a alliance with, for instance, MK? I think
Jacob Zuma doesn't make decisions by himself.
The Congress, I'll explain that. I think the Congress of EFF would agree that maybe it's the best way to working towards this goal of liberating the black child. But when you come to MK, Zuma is currently under a structure of something called the National High Command. Within the National High Command, they have their own other cascading structures of power. So I'm giving you an analysis from an outsider. Within that structure, the ultimate final say, after all of the views have been presented by all the structures, the one who can call the final shot is the president within the confines of the National High Command permission to say we agree that this can be done in this way.
Like the
but
NEC.
the running, it's the NEC, they call it the National High Command. But the running of the organization on a daily basis is done by the top 8 within the confines of the National High Command structures on discussions and everything. So when they say Zuma makes all decisions, how is that possible? Zuma doesn't sit in committees of parliament. He doesn't sit in committees of provinces. He doesn't sit in committees of legislatures. He doesn't sit in structures of the provincial National High Command structures, in terms of making sure that they run their organizations.
It's like
what you see, look, it's a figure they have to have. MK must have a figurehead.
It's like Helen Zille, the federal chair of the DA.
The federal chair. So he will make executive decisions on what should be done. For instance, there was a question of succession. Last week it was resolved. They gave a very good example of MK is a very dynamic, agile, as well as organization that is open to innovative ideas and people who can come and make a difference. So the other issues is just because I think people are just a bit jealous with what is happening within that.
I may have missed it. What's the succession plan for MK?
When they introduced the second president with Tony Yengeni as the second in command.
That's the succession plan.
It's part of the succession plan. There will be other people who will be coming in to beef up the MK's leadership structure from across the plethora.
But we don't know
got the
who they are
Secretary
yet.
General who has been brought into MK, who is now one of the most highly skilled, highly learned, comes from corporate, and is corporatizing MK and giving it a structure of really a great business-like structure.
Who's that?
The current SG,
Who's the current SG?
of MK.
Sinasqinu Floyd.
No,
SG.
remember the dynamics of Floyd is gone. We've got the new current SG who is currently running the organization.
Who's the current
and he has
SG?
done a whole beautiful work on that one. So the current SG, the chairperson of the organization, which is now the chairperson of MK, you've got now the first president, which is currently the one who's sitting in parliament. You've got the second president of MK, deputy president of MK, who was just introduced last week, which is Tony Yengeni. And then you've got the structure of the organization. So the beefing up of this organization is happening. And they are making sure that every element of its growth and trajectory is resolved in terms of its main structure as well as its corporate outlook.
Dr. Bongani Mwangu,
Yeah.
former executive from Sanlam Healthcare and Netcare 911.
Was the CEO of
He was the CEO of Sanlam Healthcare.
So
Okay.
you have these things that have been done silently, but the media, because wants to nitpick on the issues, is not looking at the whole issue. So I'm saying, coming back, if you were to give a 2/3 majority to a political structure in South Africa, say MK, you give them a 2/3 majority, they tell you within 5 years we can make a change and trajectory change. If they don't deliver, don't give them another 2/3. So it's like a bet. We're all betting on success of this movement. We give it its ability to say, here's our vote, here's our support. Let's give you 2/3 majority. The ANC, we've given it for 30 years. They were unable. We're not going to hold it against them. We know some of the setbacks. But now we're going to give it to this MK. And MK must deliver for us the 2/3 majority successes that we want to see. With all of the brilliant minds they have, Abu Braini, Abu Lucky Montana, you've got the SG Bupongani, you've got Butoni Yengeni, you've got the legal heads of jurisdiction with Dr. Klope there. And then you've got this incredible maverick, which is Uzuma, who's just able, by just sitting with him, can give you an electrifying moment, can change things in his own ability, can make sure that he inspires nations and people. So that combination. And then you've got the women behind the whole system who are actually the people who have kept it together. You've got the parliament that is run efficiently right now. You've got the structure. So I think at some point, let's take a bet. We took a bet. We said we're going to put our successes, our flag behind this organization. And so far, we are happy. We're very pleased with the successes.
Unfortunately, any closing remarks?
In closing remarks, I think we need to reopen the nationalization debate in South Africa. I attempted it, and it was not very nicely taken in. When I spoke about the nationalization of the refineries in South Africa, we need to go back to the nationalization question and saying petroleum resources, for instance, must be under the national care of South Africa, and South Africa must reopen its petroleum company, which they've created another new company called the NPCSA, National Petroleum Company of South Africa. Make sure that you can produce your petrol here. Make sure you can use your coal to produce your crude, which is your crude oil, which you need in order to produce multiple synthetic petroleum products. Use the current shale gas that is based in the Karoo.
Sure.
Right? Use that shale gas to create economies of scale in South Africa where you can create the industrialization that we need. And you can make sure that you change the lives of our people. So there are multiple opportunities that are available. But we know what is stopping it. We cannot currently mine shale gas in South Africa. You know why? Because there was 2 NGOs that went to the court and told the courts environmentalists. There were 2 Gogos, white Gogo and an African Gogo, who complained about the environment. They didn't care about our poverty. They didn't care about our struggles. They didn't care about our unemployment of 62. And the judges agreed with them to say, okay, fine. There was a flaw in the process in terms of stakeholders' engagement. And as a result, stop anything that has to do with regards to shale gas exploration.
But I think it's unfair to say, Koko don't care about poverty and unemployment.
No,
but
I don't
their
think
priority
they care.
is the environment.
No, they didn't care. They don't even care about the environment, because if they were environmentalists, they wouldn't be doing anything that they're doing. Because the true environmentalists are people who are living on the earth. They don't even have cars. They don't even have cell phones. That's true environmentalists. So these people are just fake. They're telling us all stories. I mean, I was confronted by environmentalist group who said to me, no, how can you be lobbying for the building of coal power stations? And I said to them, look, you're the last person to talk. Everything you're wearing on you is synthetic, first of all. It's all based on plastics, petroleums, and all these synthetic materials. So what right do you have to tell me and lecture me about environmental efficiency when you cannot even live it in yourself by yourself? So some of these things are sponsored ideas. We understand
That is true.
that there is movement and there's lots of money behind it internationally.
Yeah.
What Donald Trump did was incredible, where he just told them that this is a scam. We're not going to buy into it. We're going to be drilling more oil. We're going to be bringing coal. We will bring nuclear to increase our productivity. What Donald Trump is trying to do is try to take away China's leading role in the world in becoming the greatest manufacturer of the world and using electricity and energy. Without electricity and energy, you have nothing. South Africa needs to build minimum 200 megawatts. 400 megawatts, 1,000 megawatts of electricity at the scale of China for us to start talking about economic transformation and development. If we just build an extra 50,000 megawatts of brand new base load, coal, nuclear, as well as gas in South Africa, base load, right? Including hydro and others, we are going to be able to change the landscape of our economy. If we build 100, if we build 200, you can already see the economies of scale, because if you know how energy works, for every kilowatt or megawatt you add in terms of the grid, it creates you an economy of scale whereby your GDP expands at the same time. So our growth, our GDP in South Africa and growth trajectory is actually pretext on the basis of our creation of electricity. That is why in China, they don't trade electricity as you must buy units and stuff. No, they use it for economic growth. They actually create so much of electricity that is so cheap and free that you must do other things with it that are going to create economies of multiplying scale.
That's what the apartheid government were doing with Eskom when they built it.
Go back to your same tweet when you were saying that we must swallow our pride to say, look, these boys beat us in the game. Why don't we learn what they did great? We have learned what they did evil in apartheid. Now let's take what they did great in terms of technology engineering, in terms of their social engineering of creating the so-called super Afrikaner people who created themselves out of nothing. From wagon bags. Most of them were working on donkey and cattle and wagons.
Oh, the four trekkers.
Floor trekkers.
Yeah.
Today, you cannot compete with them because they are already a class of their own. But we have to create that reality as black people. And that's the passion I have about my work in terms of being a civil activist, being a politician today, being brought into the element of being in parliament. And the privilege that we have a man who could see vision in few young guys like us. We were in the ANC. They didn't. When we were radical, they thought we were problems. So somebody said, no, man, let's take this problem and make it an asset. What is wrong with that? So I'm quite appreciative. We want to nationalize. We are pushing our ideas to change the trajectory of South Africans. And I can talk to you about other things, but I'm more passionate in development.
Crown Prince Adil Nchabeleng, honorable member. So thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we'll chat again soon, especially about why you're Muslim, but not today.
No, definitely. I'm looking forward. And look, your platform is quite transformative in a sense that it reaches the most people who truly want to know.
I hope so.
Who are inquiring, not people who are looking for fake discussions and nonsense, but they want to really know how they can make a difference.
Yeah.
And you're making a difference. And we really appreciate your platform. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Ndate, thank you.